Hello everyone, welcome to sunny Misano. Not. It's qualifying for races 2 and 3 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, and the weather has taken a significant turn for the worse. Because all of a sudden the thunder has arrived, the rain has already been coming down, and now it's coming down once again. So as you can see, the teams are frantically looking at the situation and changing the tyres accordingly. As I was making their way through the throng of cars making their way out onto the grid, nearly all the drivers were on slick weather tyres. This is Ben Hingley that you're looking at now, the British driver, supported, as you can see, by the BRDC, as you can see. As I say, all the cars were on slick tyres, and I thought, as I made my way, and we look at the Mick Schumacher race winning eyes from race number 1 earlier today. As I made my way up to the commentary studio, I thought, you know what, I don't think this is going to be a dry qualifying session. And sure enough, the heavens have opened, the thunder has struck, and there's some lightning around as well. So rear lights on for all cars, and it is deemed to be a wet track. And can I just say, the support I get in this commentary booth as a cup of tea is laying before me before this qualifying session gets underway. I thank you. Brilliant service I receive here. We're looking at the Van Amersfoort driver of Sophia Flörsch, or we were then, as the car's then preparing for what is going to be a very wet qualifying session. And this qualifying session is absolutely critical because it forms the grid for race number 2. It's the fastest lap times during this qualifying session will set the grid for race 2, and the second fastest lap times from this qualifying session will set the grid for race number 3. There's Juri Vips. Had a brief conversation with Juri on the way to the grid, not to the grid, to the track for this qualifying. You can see the settings being changed on the cars there, just to soften the cars up in these damp conditions. And boy, they really are damp now, with the lights on as well here at the Marco Simoncelli circuit, Misano. So the Moto Park team going to work there on the Juri Vips car. Rougher on, we can see. And there is, in front of the floodlights, you can see just how hard the rain is beginning to come down now. So this qualifying session is, well, it has the potential to really muddle up the grid, potentially for races 2 and 3. Today's race was a masterclass for the Prema Feyenoord team, who took the first 4 places, with Mick Schumacher winning the race, Marcus Armstrong P2, Robert Schwartzman was P3, and Guan Yu Zhu was P4. Then it was Juri Vips, the Moto Park driver, ahead of Dan Ticktum, another Moto Park driver. And then it was Prema Feyenoord with Ralph Ferron taking P7. Alex Paulo, High-Tech Bullfrog GP, made his way up to P8. We're looking at Fabio Scherer, another one of the Moto Park drivers, driver of car number 13, who finished down in P14 in race 1. And so you can see we await the 20 minutes start. So it's about a minute away as we look at the Marcus Armstrong as the lightning across the commentary booth here now. Marcus Armstrong, a member of the Ferrari Driver Academy, as well as, of course, he's campaigning in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. So the number 8 car there is Marcus Armstrong. It isn't Ralph Ferron, as the graphics may have indicated. So there, the pit lane, and it almost looks like daylight, but I can assure you it's how good the floodlights are here at the Misano circuit. The cars will make their way to the end of the pit lane before the pit lane turns green by dint of the lights there. And as you can see, wet is very much, I don't think anyone needs telling, truthfully. But we are going to see a somewhat, potentially somewhat muddled up grid for races 2 and 3, dependent on how the drivers perform in these wet weather conditions. So lights are about to go green in but a few seconds from now. So just being told that the start of this session is going to be delayed, which is why I was about to say we're 20 seconds late with the light going green, but the start is going to be delayed. So Mick Schumacher there then victorious here in Misano, and victorious previously at Spa-Francorchamps and also at Silverstone. And there, from that particular camera, you can see just how severe the weather conditions are now. All of a sudden, it really has taken a turn for the worse. The lightning continues to strike. There on camera, you can see, funnily enough, there are our commentary positions, and everyone diving for cover, of course, because the rain is quite intense now. What a shame. So here on the Rimini Coast, we're in race control now, with confirmation that the start has been delayed, the start of this qualifying session. We have just had cars out on track. The Audi R8 LMS Cup were racing not more than 15 or so minutes ago. But nonetheless, race control have deemed it sufficient. Oh, and you can really hear the thunder now. There is Dan Ticktum. They've deemed it sufficiently severe to delay the start of this qualifying session. So apologies for that as we look at the rain hammering down on the tarmac here at Misano. Ambient temperature, of course, is still extremely warm, and therefore when the rain stops, the track dries really quite quickly. But there's no fear with just a 20-minute qualifying session that there's any part of this qualifying that is going to be dry. So all the teams down there with their cars, of course, and we await information from race control as to what the format is going to be with regards to this qualifying session, which has been, the start of which has been delayed. It's a reasonably flexible program, I want to say. We have, following this Formula 3 qualifying, we have the DTM cars out qualifying for their race one, and then the DTM race. So there is a bit of fluidity, I would suggest, within the program to accommodate delays like this. But nonetheless, as soon as we get the information from race control, we'll give you an update on exactly what is happening. For now, we have these static images, if you like, of the cars down there in the pit lane. Daniel Ticktum, the points leader, Marcus Armstrong, P2, and the car we're looking at there, the first of the cars, is the number 33 car of Marino Sato, who took a P15 in race 1 here today, which across the season was race 19. And there you can see the rain continuing to hammer down here at the Misano circuit. Various stretches of the tarmac. With standing water on. This circuit built back in the early 1970s, 16 turns, 6 of them left-handers, 10 of them right-handers, 4.2 kilometers long, the Misano circuit. We're being told that the session is going to start in just under 3 minutes' time at 19:06, and have that confirmation on the screen now. 19:06, session will start, so we are just 2 minutes and 8 seconds away from that session getting underway. So the drivers will be out. The rain is beginning to abate a bit, I think. However, as you can hear in the background, the thunder continues to rumble through the skies here on the Adriatic coast of Misano. We're looking at the car of Guan Yu Zhu, the Prema Feodor racer, who, of course, started the campaign very well in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, taking a win in the opening race at Po. He's been winless thereafter, it has to be said. He's been on the podium 3, if not 4 times since then, but he hasn't been able to take a win. As you can see, the lightning strike here. And we look at the Red Bull liveried car of Dan Ticktum. So there we have the rain down onto the tarmac and onto the curbs as well. The track under the lights now, floodlit for this qualifying session, which will get underway in less than a minute's time. So with the backdrop of the thunder, we look at the number 15 car of Kayvan Suri Andres, the Van Amersfoort racer, whose best result thus far came at the street circuit in Norrisring, the middle race of the 3, where he took a P3. And the thunder continues to rage, and you can can see in the race control building all those images of lightning being replayed across the many monitors that they have there. There is the #1 car of Guan Yu Zhu, just off the podium in race 1 here at Misano earlier today, taking a P4. So just an update for you from race control. We've just had the session delayed by another couple of minutes, so it's going to be 19:08 that it starts. It's like being in an airport, isn't it, where you get the constant information of your flight that is being delayed and delayed and delayed. It tends not to be minutes, more often hours, or that's certainly been my experience this year. Let's not go there, Dave. Focus on the job in hand, which is the qualifying session for the Formula 3 European Championship. It's Quali 2, and from this quali session we get the grid for race 2 from the fastest lap times, and we get the grid for race 3 from the second fastest lap times of this session. So new start time for the session is 19:08, and we are 1 minute and 10 seconds away from that. To be fair, I think the cloud is moving across. The sky is certainly less dark than it was, and therefore I think the clouds and the slight storm that we've just had is moving away from the circuit now, so that we can get this session underway. And the full 20 minutes will be run, albeit we'll be starting somewhat later than we anticipated. But as I said, we have some flexibility in the schedule that allows us to do that. In the Drivers' Championship then, following race 1, that was won by this man, Mick Schumacher, the points at the top were narrowed, or the margin was narrow between Dan Ticktum and Marcus Armstrong. And there you can see one of our cherry pickers, where we have lights directly underneath. So this floodlit track here at the Misano circuit, with the backdrop of the lightning, which is now moving out across the Adriatic. And we're about to get this session underway in 3 seconds time. Sure enough, the lights go green and the cars are released, and we get the qualifying session underway then. Not absolutely convinced it's going to go without perhaps 1 or 2 cars maybe falling off the tarmac, and I say that with some caution, because a number of drivers have been warned with regards to track limits, and now of course with the track conditions really rather challenging, out goes the 3 Van Amersfoort cars that you can see straight away. There's Ben Hingley, who's making his way out. Here comes Dan Ticktum in the number 27 car, the Moto Park driver, followed by Marino Sato. And then we see the number 23 car of Jonathan Aberdeen. The number 13 machine is Fabio Scherer. And there is the number 3. That was actually the car of Gian Daravala, the number 9 car. The visibility, as you can see, somewhat compromised by the spray that's already being kicked up. There is the number 7 car of Ralph Aron. Here comes Robert Schwartzman on the podium, of course, in race 1, taking P3. Non-familiar Prema colours, that's for sure. Robert Schwartzman, very much supported by the SMP Racing concern. So the cars have 20 minutes of this somewhat wet tarmac ahead of them, and qualifying for races 2 and 3, which come up tomorrow. And just to repeat, the race 2 grid will be set from the fastest lap times during this qualifying session, and the race 3 grid from the second fastest lap times. And we can perhaps expect to see a somewhat muddled grid, and if we were to think that the grid order would be perhaps loosely based on the results of race number 1, I think this change in weather conditions really will level the playing field somewhat, and might give us a mixed up order for races 2 and 3, which is certainly no bad thing as the lightning continues to streak across the skies here at Misano. The drivers will get a couple of sighting laps in before we see any meaningful times on the screen. There you can see the lightning continue to strike. To give you some example, the of how far out these times are going to be. We're running the clock on Sophia Flörsch now. The fastest lap during the race earlier came from Juri Vips, and it was a 1:29.142. We're not going to see anything like that, obviously, in these conditions. So Sophia Flörsch then, who made her debut into the FIA Formula 3 European Championship at the Zandvoort round earlier on this year. She'd missed out on the 3 opening rounds, but was a very welcome addition to the grid from Zandvoort thereafter, racing for the Dutch Van Amersfoort squad. And we run the clock on Sophia Flörsch to give us an indicative time going forward. If it's green, it means it's a personal best sector. If it's purple, it's a better than anyone's sector. Expect to see a lot of greens and purples in the early stages of this, obviously, because no one has set a significant lap time yet. So Sophia Flörsch then for Van Amersfoort Racing. Now, if you've got clear track ahead of you, you're going to have a real advantage because of the spray that's being kicked up from the car, as you can see. Sector 1 and Sector 2, 31.5 and 43.279. I remind you that we're already at the time that was set, the fastest lap time that was set by Juri Vips before we've even done the final turn. Some indication of how slow relatively these lap times are going to be in these wet conditions compared to the times that were set in the race earlier on. So here comes Sophia Flörsch then, heading to break the timing beam following this final turn here, which is turn number 16, and heads towards the beam now, and breaks the beam and sets a time of a 1:55.464. Now, the fastest so far, which was one that we were not running the clock on, was, well, it was initially Artem Petrov, but that's just been beaten by Juri Vips and also by Ben Hingley. So super slow-mo there of Sophia Flörsch controlling the car in these hideous conditions. So Juri Vips with a 1:52.002. Then we have Ben Hingley, a 1:52.305. And then it's Artem Petrov with a 1:52.639. Across the timing line goes Mick Schumacher. Let's not read too much into that particular lap from Mick Schumacher. It will be the next one that will be the important one. And what is going to be critical here is finding yourself track space. So, A, your visibility is not compromised, and B, you at least can focus on where you're putting the car, because your visibility is so compromised by the spray ahead. So Mick Schumacher, we run the clock on now, 29.685, a personal best through Sector 1. So the Prema Theodore racer, who added the 3rd win to his tally earlier on today. So in the last 3 rounds at Spa, Silverstone, and here at Misano, he has taken wins. I spoke to him yesterday, and he said that he was absolutely determined to win here in Misano in Italy, and of course has experience of the Italian circuit, racing here in Italian Formula 4, and of course the Formula 3 drivers tested here earlier on in the year. But Schumacher certainly came good on his promise to me that he would win here at Misano. He has already done it and put that win in the book. Ben Hingley now goes quickest with a 1:50.603, which is promptly bettered by Juri Vips with a 1:50.117, who is going to be the first sub-150 time that we see. Marino Sato is currently 3rd fastest with a 1:51.115. And we await what Mick Schumacher can deliver as he gets very sideways out of the final turn. But one, and this is the final turn now. And again, the back end of the car just getting away, which costs you valuable hundredths. So Mick Schumacher does cross the timing line and goes from P9 to P3, but inevitably, as he pushed down to P4 now, inevitably the sideways motion of that car and running off there has cost him valuable 100ths and potentially even tenths. So Juri Vips is the fastest, a 1:50.117, a clear 3 and a bit tenths quicker than Ralph Aron, who is now 2nd fastest with a 1:50.485. Then it's Ben Hingley, Mick Schumacher, Marino Sato, Marcus Armstrong, Inem Ahmed, Daniel Ticktum, and then running in P9 at the moment is Sebastian Fernandez, and then it's Guan Yu Zhu, who is the 10th fastest at the moment. So the first 4 drivers are all in the 150s, then we've got another 5 or 6 drivers in the 51s, then everyone else is in the 52s, 53s and 54s. Here is the fastest man on the track at the moment, Juri Vips, the Moto Park racer. So he has now done a quicker than anyone else second sector. So this could be another very, very good time from Juri Vips, although he's compromised now by Ben Hingley being ahead of him. So this may have taken some valuable time out of Juri Vips. His visibility compromised. He has to move to the inside. Is it an improvement? Well, it certainly is. A 1:48.883. Now, I said who was going to be the first sub 150, expecting something in the 49s. Well, Juri Vips has put it in the 1:48. It's a 48.883. Dan Ticktum now goes second fastest with a 1:50.194. This is Ben Hingley and Juri Vips desperately trying to find a way past Ben Hingley so he can focus on his qualifying session and get up the road. This is only qualifying, it's not a race. You'd be forgiven to think that Juri Vips was trying to overtake Ben Hingley. Well, actually, that is exactly what he's trying to do, but we're not in race conditions, we're in qualifying conditions here. So the number 65 car of Inem Ahmed is currently 8th fastest, and Juri Vips then does manage to put himself on the inside of Ben Hingley. The two are going around the corner side by side here, and Hingley has run out onto the runoff area. Does come back, but comes back behind Juri Vips now. Juri Vips absolutely on a mission here, and another 2 drivers have gone sub 150 now. Gian Daravala with a 1:49.447, and Ferdinand Habsburg with a 1:49.757. Now joined by Marcus Armstrong with a 1:49.973. But the only driver in the 48 is Juri Vips, the driver of car number 44 that we can see mid-screen right now. We've got around about 10.5 minutes of this qualifying session left to run, and Juri Vips has banked to 1:48.883. Now here we can see this was Juri Vips fighting hard with Ben Hingley. Both cars going just a little bit sideways. And Juri Vips then on the inside here of the number 77 car of Ben Hingley, the high-tech GP driver. Of course, Juri Vips in the number 44 car for Moto Park. VW power versus Mercedes-Benz power there. And there is Ferdinand Habsburg, PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2. He's currently 3rd fastest with a 1:49.757. So if he can keep it all together through the final sector, then with PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2, this should be an improvement from Ferdinand Habsburg. A 1:49.757 was his previous best. It is an improvement, a 1:49.100. It's P3 at the moment for Ferdinand Habsburg. As Gian Daravala now is another driver that goes into the 48s. With a 1:48.805. He's taken 8/100ths out of Juri Vips' time. So Juri Vips is relegated to P2. Here comes Mick Schumacher. Another quick time from Mick Schumacher. He elevates himself from P16 to P4. Quicker than anyone through Sector 1, and then PBs in Sector 2 and Sector 3. And Ralph Aron now goes fastest of everyone. Ralph Aron with a 1:48.771. So it's Aron, Daravala, Vips and Schumacher, the top 4 at the moment. The first 2 rows of the grid for race 2, if everything stayed this way, would feature those 4 drivers. But I just have a feeling that things are going to change before the end of this session. We've got 9 minutes remaining. And there you can see on screen, Aron, Daravala, Vips, Schumacher, Habsburg and Alex Paulo, the top 6 drivers. So the number 7 car of Ralph Aron, who has got the Jonathan Aberdeen car ahead of him. And Ralph Aron is the fastest man on the track with that 1:48.771. Jonathan Aberdeen is P20 at the moment. So more to come from Jonathan Aberdeen, that's for sure. And there is Ralph Aron then. So it's Aron, Daravala, but now it's Juri Vips. Juri Vips responds with a 1:47.979. So Juri Vips has taken a huge chunk of time out of Ralph Aron, that man that we can see on screen now. So Juri Vips absolutely on a flyer here. Here comes Ferdinand Habsburg. PBs through Sector 1 and Sector 2. He goes from P5 to P2. 48.613, so he pushes Ralph Aron down into P3 now. But the only driver in the 47s is Juri Vips. So Juri Vips in car number 44 is the quickest man, 1:47.979. Mick Schumacher then, he's done a PB through sector 2, but it's not enough, and it's P5 for Mick Schumacher at the moment. 7.5 minutes of the session remain. The lightning continues to streak across the sky, but the rain is beginning to abate a little. We've got a yellow flag in turns 8 and 9. Whether someone is off there. Marcus Armstrong now responds to everyone. Doesn't beat Juri Vips though. He goes P2 with a 1:48.427. So yellow flag out now from turns 8 and 9, so we can go back to full course greens, albeit in extremely wet conditions. This is car number 1 of Guan Yu Zhu, whose best time so far is a 1:49.595, which is only P9 for Guan Yu Zhu at the moment. There are still 6 3/4 minutes of the session remaining, but that is relatively few laps. Here's Ferdinand Habsburg, third fastest. Ferdinand Habsburg then in the number 62 car for Carlin. Of course, the eponymous British team. And Ferdinand Habsburg's best finish in the season so far has been a pair of P5s. Dan Ticktum improves from P15 to P8 for Moto Park. But no one is touching Juri Vips at the moment, and no one is going purple through any of the sectors. So at the moment, Juri Vips' time is being uncontested, a 1:47.591 from Juri Vips. Here comes Ferdinand Habsburg then. And as you can see, that is certainly not an improvement. In fact, 8.8 seconds down. I wonder if it was he that caused the yellow flag in turns 8 and 9, perhaps, by running wide. Marcus Armstrong, PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2, is already third fastest. What can Marcus Armstrong deliver as he heads towards the timing line? So the Juri Vips time, a 1:47.591. Here comes Marcus Armstrong out of the final turn. And it's a 1:47.582, 9/1,000ths quicker than Juri Vips. So Marcus Armstrong, with 5 minutes left to run in this qualifying session, goes quickest with a 1:47.582. Just thousandths is the difference between Marcus Armstrong and Juri Vips, the only two drivers in the 1:47s. And look at the car. I mean, you can almost see the front of the car is understeering as he just pushes it and gives it absolutely everything he can. Beautifully controlling the car, shod with, of course, wet weather tyres. And now Juri Vips, who's stayed at the top of the chart for so long during this qualifying session, has got to try and do it all over again, but do it a few 1,000ths quicker than Marcus Armstrong. This is Inem Ahmed then that we watch now in the number 65 car. Inem Ahmed is currently 10th fastest. Behind him is the number 15 car of the Van Amersfoort racer, Kevin Andres Sori. And there is Ferdinand Habsburg. PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Is it going to be enough if he's put it all together in Sector 3? P6 for Ferdinand Habsburg. He improves 3 places and goes to P3 now, 1:47.850. Gian Daravala improves as well with a 1:47.974. So in the closing stages of this, the spray still flies. This is Juri Vips. So PB for Juri Vips through Sector 1. So he could do with a middle sector which was purple, but he can do it on 3 PBs. Let's see what Juri Vips can do. The big battle is between him and Marcus Armstrong. Marcus Armstrong, 1:47.205. I'm told Marcus Armstrong is improving his time as well. So Vips now has got a bigger margin, and the middle sector was not a good one. So we're running the clock on both the drivers. And it's a real nip and tuck between these two, Juri Vips and Marcus Armstrong. Armstrong is the quickest at the moment. Juri Vips trying to respond, running out of time in this qualifying session to be able to do so. Traffic ahead of him. It's all not necessarily playing into the hands of the driver of car number 44. There you can see he's got the Kevin Andres car ahead of him, the Van Amersfoort racer. And he could do with completely clear track ahead of him. Just look at the difference in the line out of turn 16. As Juri Vips crosses the timing line and does not improve, and this lap it's going to be difficult to improve because he's got a car right ahead of him, and there you can see a little bit of sideways movement from the Juri Vips car, which cost him valuable time. So the quickest man out there is Marcus Armstrong on 1:47.205. Then it's Juri Vips 1:47.291. Mick Schumacher is now third fastest with a 1:47.790. Then it is Ferdinand Habsburg, although those two places have just been reversed as Ferdinand Habsburg goes third fastest. But look at this from Marcus Armstrong. Although he runs very, very wide, he has gone purple in Sector 1 and Sector 2. So Marcus Armstrong on a real mission there, already quickest with a 1:47.205. And here is Marcus Armstrong then, heading towards the timing line, a 1:47.205 with his previous best, and now it's a 46.253. Now, you may recall at the beginning of the program when I said, actually, once the rain abates, because of the ambient temperature, this track does begin to offer a better line. And whilst there's still plenty of water out there and the spray still hampers visibility, Marcus Armstrong has just confounded everyone by putting a lap which I didn't think we would see in this qualifying session in the 46s, a 1:46.253. That's a full second quicker than Juri Vips with a 1:47.291. Ralph Aron now has gone quickest in Sector 1 in car number 7. He's currently sixth fastest as the cars make their way through. Here comes car number 3. Fernandez across the line. Here comes Ralph Aron then as we run the clock on him. PB, Sector 1 and Sector 2 as the track begins to come to these drivers. Ralph Aron could go from his current position of P7 and improve significantly. Here he is heading towards the timing line. Not that car, this car. Beg your pardon. Ralph Aron is only now making his way through the final turn. Here he comes, Ralph Aron then. And he goes P2 because the third sector was only a PB, but it's still a time in the 1:46s. It's only he and Marcus Armstrong that have delivered that. Gian Daravala is now third fastest. All we have is 15 seconds of this left. Marcus Armstrong then, a 1:46.069. Ralph Aron, a 1:46.540. Gian Daravala, a 1:47.106. Guan Yu Zhu with a 1:47.187. And Juri Vips is P5 now with a 1:47.291. So the checkered flag is out. Anyone that is on a lap and has crossed the line before the checkered flag then can stay, and the lap will count. So it's not all over yet because nearly all of the cars have managed to get across the timing line before the checkered flag came out. So Marcus Armstrong, a 1:46.069. We've got a yellow in turn 10. And that's going to compromise anyone that's beyond or ahead of turn number 10. As Juri Vips puts in a 1:46.004. So Juri Vips then left it right to the very, very last moment. But here comes Mick Schumacher. First sector was really, really good. Second sector not so brilliant. But is this going to be enough for Mick Schumacher to knock Juri Vips off the top spot? Juri Vips with a 1:46.004. So we follow the number 4 car of Mick Schumacher, victorious here earlier on today in race 1 by taking the win and doing it in style with a good margin over the P2 place. So Mick Schumacher currently 11th fastest. It's going to be an improvement, come what may, but is it going to be enough to put him on the front row of the grid? Well, we find out now as Mick Schumacher goes third fastest. It's a second row start for race number 2 for Mick Schumacher. It's Juri Vips, Marcus Armstrong, Mick Schumacher, Ralph Aron, Ferdinand Habsburg. Who have we got left across the line? I don't think anyone, perhaps with the exception of Gian Daravala. No, everyone has done it now, so no one is going to offer us an improvement. That means that this qualifying session ends with Juri Vips fastest, Marcus Armstrong second fastest. Then it was Mick Schumacher, Ralph Aron, Ferdinand Habsburg, and Alex Paulo. Juri Vips, what a star you are. 1:46.004. 6/100ths quicker than Marcus Armstrong. That's how close it was. So Juri Vips then, who had been top of the chart during various parts of the session and then lost out to other drivers, but Juri Vips has done it when it counted, and that's right at the end of the session with a 1:46.004. So in really challenging conditions at the start of that qualifying session, the well, credit to all the FIA Formula 3 European Championship drivers for coping with that really rather well and putting on a very, very exciting qualifying session. And Juri Vips in car number 44, the Moto Park driver, has put it P1. Here's the result in full for you. Marcus Armstrong was the quickest. Then it was Ralph Aron, P2. Of course, these are the second fastest times, which will be the grid for race number 3. So Marcus Armstrong, P1 for race 3. Then it will be Ralph Aron, Juri Vips, Guan Yu Zhu, Ferdinand Habsburg, Inem Ahmed, Daniel Tickton, Mick Schumacher, Gian Daravala and Alex Paulo, with Fernandez, Fenestraz, Jonathan Aberdeen, then Ben Hinsley, Marino Sato, Robert Schwartzman, Artem Petrov, Fabio Schirra, Sophia Flörsch and Kayvan Suri Andres then. This is the result, so it's the second fastest lap that we're seeing now, with Nikita Troitsky and Amaya Vadyanathan bringing up the rear. That will be the race 3 grid. Here comes the actual fastest times during that qualifying session, which gives us the grid for race number 2. Marcus Armstrong and Ralph Aron, P1, P2. Then Juri Vips, and forgive my confusion because my timing screen says Juri Vips was the quickest. Okay, we will look into that. So, according to us, unless race control have deemed something incorrect, whether the result we're seeing on our timing screen is different to the graphics that you are seeing here. So, well, there we have it. Qualifying session done and dusted for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, setting the grids for races 2 and 3. As I said to you, the fastest lap times in Q2 will give us the grid for race 2, and the second fastest lap times will give us the grid for race number 3. Make sure you join us for those, or for the next 2 races in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship here at the Misano circuit.